Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. It's been 10 seasons of empowering India's small businesses, hand-holding and guiding you and helping you in your growth journey. I'm Sunanda Jayasilan. On the show tonight, we are talking about what digitization means as far as the supply chain is concerned. What do we mean as far as ease of doing business on the road is concerned, and also what the way forward is looking for India's logistics players. All of that in conversation with Fortigo. Also on the hot seat tonight is a very young entrepreneur and innovator, Alisha Moopen of Aster DM Healthcare. Anjani, thanks so much for your time here on the Leaders of Tomorrow. Good having you with us. And I want to just set the context as we're kicking off today's interview about the overall logistics market, and then also about how things really are changing on the ground as we speak. You're aware of this. This is more for the benefit of our viewers. We're looking at a $200 billion USD logistics market overall, growing at nearly 8 to 10%. Intercity of that is 90 billion USD, and that's the market you play in. So let's ask you to really talk about Fortigo and talk about the kind of growth that you've seen and why you decided to become an entrepreneur in this space.
So we have two sets of services. One is for the large companies, enterprises, and the other side is for the supply pool. We provide transportation services regular for the buyer side, which is large organizations in specific industries, FMCG, certain specific metals and minerals, and certain industrials of companies which are market leaders. And on the supply side, again in the transportation, we provide digital payment services, digital fuel, digital toll, and we provide them for the business to the supply side, which is the actual truckers. So that's one piece of actual services we provide. The other one is a SaaS product, which is about digitization of the entire transport management for large companies. So those are the two separate lines of business that we cater to.
You said something very interesting to me offline. You said that this market is so large that no one has really got a dominant position yet. No one is a monopoly player yet. What are some of the biggest challenges, as you foresee it as one of the front runners in this space, when it comes to ensuring that businesses are gaining more and more scale? Because like we just discussed, the potential is huge. So why hasn't perhaps the growth then kept pace?
So I would say actually there is no barrier to growth for any organization as long as they can manage their growth to be profitable and continue to grow to a size of $1 billion and onwards. The reason why it has not happened so far is because most companies, the service providers, need to focus on specific segments and continue to provide services to the level that it continues to be profitable and efficient for them. Now that is one side of the picture. There is another part to it also, that the buyers of the service themselves, they do a forced fragmentation, and they never allow a single company to provide the entire logistics services if they are significantly large. Some of the top leaders in the FMCG segment may have as many as 100 plus transportation vendors catering to them.
Since we're speaking of the pandemic, I understand that the pandemic has forced a lot of the informal players to really consolidate. Is that going to continue? What can you tell us?
The mantra in pandemic, or for that matter any disruption, is assess the risk for yourself, decide what you want to do, and see whether the risk is suitable for your own growth. Right? Once you have done that, then you chart out your path of making sure that you are efficient, keep on working towards providing your customers with the service as and where they need. It so happened that during the pandemic, entire industry segments went off the radar and had to shut down quickly because they were direct manufacturers. Whereas all distribution-led companies, especially FMCG and foods, that continued to work almost BAU, business as usual. And that is the business that we retained. But what we did do during this entire period is to improve our own internal efficiency and productivity. And the top business metrics is really about profitability and managing the cash cycle. We ensured that across the company, we of course were already digitized fully internally, so we are all connected, and we made sure that each and every metric of operations and each and every metrics of the financials became efficient. So that's how you survive. You first assess the risk, decide the path you want to grow, and make yourself really efficient. And it was during the pandemic that we actually started the SaaS service, which is catering for the new developments which will take place after the pandemic and such disruption. Because digitization is one big one, and we created a SaaS platform to cater to the digitization of the transport management for large companies.
Here on the Leaders of Tomorrow, we're talking about the big trends and the big events that are having an impact as far as entrepreneurship is concerned. Today, we are of course talking about the logistics space. The first big trend that I do want to talk about is digitization and the digital impact on the supply chain from the start to the finish, and really how that is evolving. What can you tell us?
So I would say in terms of the medium term and the long term impact, the largest impact of any one significant move would be actually digitization. It comes in the backdrop of some of the things which have already taken place as a part of the government initiative, whether it is the national toll system or the payments which are ubiquitous all over the place in the digital form, or the facilities of banking and quick turnarounds in terms of payments and recoveries. All these are the backdrop on which now the platform has been set for an end-to-end digitization of the supply chain. Fundamental to this is really about having a principal or a large company have the visibility of what is happening at the last consumer space. Let me try to explain that. If I have a distribution business and I am the manufacturer, usually I just pass on the goods to a distribution chain or a retailer chain. I do not have the visibility of who, what and which segment and which geography the actual consumption is going into. I just look at the numbers and whether there is a bleed from one area or the other, I would not know, because that transparency is not there. Typically, a distribution chain may have even 3 levels, and my transparency will be 1 plus 1, the one who I ship to and maybe one more. But it rarely is about the offtake rate. Now, if I have that, I would have a complete match of the supply and demand. Imagine the impact it would have on the overall inventory in motion, inventory in the warehouse and inventory in the factory. That entire efficiency will come through, and you would have a much lower cost of overall what you would call as logistics cost end to end. And what is hidden in all of this is the cost of finance of funding that entire inventory. And there is another aspect of it, of end of life. End of life becomes a very, very insignificant portion. End of life very often has to be destroyed as a product and just keep sitting in some warehouse and sold as scrap. It becomes near insignificant when you have a classic end-to-end digitization.
Any advice that you have for our entrepreneurs based on your personal and professional journey?
Technology works if you make it work in the current fashion. Technology can make you as a profitable company. Believe in it, invest in it in the correct fashion, and drive towards continual improvement of your business. If you do not have a focus of continually improving your business metrics and your operation metrics and facilitated with technology, it will be difficult to have a long-term sustainable business.
Thank you for your time.
It was a pleasure.
I'm going to take a quick break on that note. We're back in just a moment. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. On the show tonight, in the hot seat, Alisha Moopen of Aster DM Healthcare. Alisha, thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you. Thank you, Sunanda, for having me. It's a pleasure.
You joined the business in 2012 and there have been considerable and significant changes since then. Just talk to us about your journey and what some of the highlights of those changes have been.
Wow. So it's actually been 10 years since I've joined the business. I've always been very close to the brand Aster, obviously. I've grown up seeing my father build this business. And when I joined the company, it was substantial even at that time, right? But over the last decade, I think we have really grown exponentially. We always talk about having spent the first 2 decades building the blocks in the different countries we are in, whether it's in the GCC, with the different brands, Medcare, Aster, Axis, the different countries in India, in Oman, in Qatar, in Saudi. And over the last 10 years, we've seen each of these legs grow significantly and exponentially. So for me personally, I've been involved in a lot of strategic expansions, in the strategic development of some of the key areas. More recently with COVID, this has been a major pivot for the entire healthcare system, but especially for us at Aster, we didn't want to make it only about the pandemic. What are the learnings from the pandemic? How can we grow it? So the 3 years has really kind of accelerated our growth as an organization, and we're finding better ways to serve our customers, the people who trust us. How is it that we can fulfill our journey, our mission of being one of the best healthcare providers in the world, making sure that we can have quality healthcare, which is accessible as well as affordable.
What would you say some of the advantages or factors which have contributed to the kind of growth that you've seen at Aster DM have been?
So honestly, it boils down to just one thing. It is the people. We always say that in healthcare, especially for us, our chairman always says that in healthcare, profit has to be a byproduct. It cannot be the aim and it cannot be the focus. So for us, it's all about how do you take care of your patients? How do you do what is best in their interest to take care of their health? They're entrusting their whole life with us. So we do whatever is needed to make sure that the patient gets the best care possible, the best access possible, and we say that takes care of itself. So even though he started with his own little clinic, now we are more than 25,000 people strong, close to 4,000 doctors, and it is that mentality, that ethical, moral approach to taking care of people that's really taken us to where we are. That's going to always be our constant. We might evolve in our model. We might go to various markets, different countries, but this will always be the steady constant for Aster DM Healthcare.
Let's take a step back and really talk about the genesis of the business. Why did your dad and why did your father really decide to start this business in Dubai and then expand it to India?
So I think with my father, he had come to Dubai on a charity mission, and when he came here, it was actually his friends who forced him almost to try and take a small sabbatical from his professorship in India and set up something, even if it's for a brief period. I think all he saw even at that moment was this demand-supply gap. There were people who were coming in hordes here because of the environment, because of the ecosystem the leaders in UAE were trying to create, and he wanted to try and be part of that. But having said that, you can't take an Indian away from India. I think as soon as he had kind of built a bit of roots here, the first thing he had done was build a hospital back in his hometown in Kerala, and from there we've now grown to more than close to 20 hospitals in India. We've got nursing colleges there. We've got medical colleges. And we always looked at the other countries which were close by in UAE as well. So the entire GCC became kind of a region that extended itself quite well. So we always went with where is the people, where is the need, and which are the adjacencies to our business where we can do justice and grow into.
What is your management style like, Anisha? How do you describe that? And how is it perhaps different or similar to that of your father's?
Oh, that's a tough one. You know, I personally, I think you'll have to ask the team as well, but personally, I think we are quite similar. I'd like to think that we're quite mission oriented. For us, it is very important the mission of healthcare, why we are doing this, and that comes across in any decision we are making. Thinking about the patient first, thinking about our team and the staff first, and then making sure that the care is demonstrated and visible on the ground. I think we're quite strategic. We do believe in really empowering our teams. How is it? I think one of the things my dad does amazingly well is, as strategic as he is, he knows everything that happens on the ground as well, and that's an amazing. It's not easy to balance that out, right? So I hope I can progress into something like that, but I do think we have more similarities than differences. Maybe he's a lot more patient than I am, but I'm gonna park it aside as age related.
Corporate social responsibility is something that's very close to your heart. It's not just a box that you're ticking off. What are some of the top initiatives and efforts that you're taking on this front that you can tell our viewers about?
So you're absolutely right, Sunanda. For us, Aster Volunteers is our CSR arm. We do a lot with the communities in all the countries that we are, as well as outside the countries that we serve, to see how is it that we can help get quality care to people who cannot afford it. So we actually have medical camps, awareness programs. Even when there was the floods that happened in India, we rebuilt homes for people. We've sent food packages to Syria, to Yemen. We've got multiple mobile vans. We've got close to 15 mobile vans right now that goes to different areas in the world, helps with basic screening, helps with basic healthcare packages which are done so that people really at least have some idea about where their health lies. And basic care can be attended to in remote and faraway places. So for us, this is something which we deeply connect with. We want to be able to, we try to sort of also offer a lot of surgeries at cost. Our doctors have volunteered their time where they don't charge for those people who cannot afford it. We work very closely with crowdfunding organizations because there's so many people who, with this technology that's available, this skill set that's available, but somebody can't do a surgery because they don't have the funds. So we work very closely, and there's so many kind and generous people in the world. So all we need to do is trying to create a platform to match these. So at Aster Volunteers, we actually have right now close to 45,000 volunteers actively engaged, and we've touched the lives of more than 3.5 million people over the last 3 years.
Alisha, what are perhaps some of the biggest lessons that you've learned from Aster, and what do you see yourself taking forward in, let's say, the next decade or so?
I think the biggest lesson that I've learned is there's so much to learn from everyone. So I think always, I love Steve Jobs' talk where he says, stay hungry, stay foolish. How is it that you can learn from everyone that you interact with? How do you take the team along? Because there's only so much you can do by yourself, right? So it's really about kind of bringing the best of all the people and kind of creating that environment that they can actually succeed, that each person prospers, each person's able to fulfill their personal goals, as well as that being tied into professional goals. For the organization as a whole, for me, I need to see Aster at the top. I want it to be one of the best in the world. I know we do amazing work with amazing people with the right intention. Now, how do we aspire that something, organizations that's reached there in 160, 200 years, can I get there in 40 years, 45 years, which gives me another 4 years? That's what we want to do, and I believe that we have the team that will make that happen.
What advice would you have for entrepreneurs who are keen on entering into either the Dubai or the UAE healthcare market, whether they're entrepreneurs or SMEs? Anything you want to tell them?
Yeah, so I do think with the new laws and regulations, there are lots of opportunities here. One of the best things about UAE, honestly, is that it's such a agile system. It works to try and create the right environment for anybody to come here and set up something which they believe will be in the best interest of the people and the residents. So if anyone who's got, and we have so many brilliant Indians who live in UAE, and I'm sure that's a testament to what the opportunities here exist, right? So whether it's in health tech, whether it's the manpower piece, whether it's technology, logistics, I would say if you have the right ideas, there should be nothing stopping you, because if you have great ideas and you're able to execute, this place is really a wonderful platform to be able to access the rest of the world too.
All right, Alisha, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. It was my pleasure.
Out of time on tonight's show. If you have any feedback for us, do let us know. Our contact details are on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.